Hello, SEMO, and welcome to Hawk's Nest. I'm your host, Tryston, joined by my friends Kyler Messenger and Molly Faust. Today, we're going to take a little look at our SEMO tennis and softball teams. But before we get to that, we're going to take a look at the transfer portal in basketball and how that affects mid-major schools like SEMO. All that and more coming up on Hawk's Nest. So, ladies and gentlemen, women's NCAA transfer portal just opened on April 6th. It's going to close on the 20th. Men's opened on the 7th, closing on the 21st. So that gives you a 14-day window. Kyler, what can you tell us about that?
Well, I can tell you about the transfer portal and how crazy it's been in recent memory. It's the most crazy that it's been this season. You got players entering the portal left and right. And when you talk about the transfer portal, you got to describe it a little bit more. It's not an actual portal. It's not a black hole. It is just a figurative portal where players, collegiate level players, can go into and they can switch teams. It's like free agency in a pro sport, but at the collegiate level. And one player that I want to talk about that's a big highlight in the transfer portal world is High Point's point guard Rob Martin. Now, we are in April, but March Madness, the basketball tournament, just occurred. The 12-seeded High Point Panthers took down the 5-seeded Wisconsin Badgers. And it was all because of Rob Martin. Rob Martin, a former SEMO guard, dropped 24 in their second to last game. And then in their almost other upset, they almost had two upsets, they only had one. Rob Martin dropped over 30 points, and he's a transfer from SEMO. So you can't even imagine it. A former SEMO guy made it to the big stage and played so well against a projected top 5 NBA pick in Darius Acuff. So the transfer portal has made its way all the way to SEMO. Tryston, tell us some more about it.
So, absolutely, guys. Great story, by the way, Kyler. Just to give you a little background on the transfer portal, in 2018 was when it was officially began, gave players the opportunity to go to other schools if they weren't in the right setting, stuff like that. But this required players to actually sit out a year. So if you transfer to another school, you couldn't just abuse the system and start playing right away. You would have to sit out. So that lots of players didn't take that opportunity because they didn't want to give up a year of eligibility. But in 2021, they actually changed it, said, okay, now you don't have to sit out a year. And then in 2024, they said, okay, we're just granting unlimited transfers to everybody. So if a player wants to transfer 4 times in 4 years, he can do that one team per year. So there's been major changes. As of today, actually, there are over 1,500 players for college basketball already in the men's portal. It opened 2 days ago, guys.
Wow.
So huge. Molly, can you tell us anything about your thoughts on the transfer portal?
As long as it's making somebody happy.
Absolutely.
I'm cool with it.
And I think it is making a lot of people happy. Not the coaches, though. Coaches, actually, mid-major programs like SEMO are hurting from this. You've got players like Rob Martin that have left SEMO, players like Luke Almodovar and BJ Ward who actually just entered the transfer portal and are going to go off. If players have good years at these mid-majors, they have the opportunity to transfer up to schools, to programs with more money that have the opportunity to give them more playing time, better scholarships, better brand deals, more money for the players, stuff like that.
Yeah, Tryston, you mentioned the money aspect of this story. That's the big thing that we're going to talk about next, which you guys, it's the money. It's the NIL, as you could call it. That is also a new rule to college sports, to college basketball specifically. Players can now get paid for playing a sport. They make the school money, so why shouldn't they be getting paid? That's the argument. And now players are getting paid. So you see a guy transferring from SEMO, such as Luke Almodovar, maybe he's going to go to a big school and make some money where he was just coming to SEMO to get his name out there. Now he's potentially making money somewhere else. So SEMO sits in a kind of awkward position. They're kind of a stepping stone for a player to build a good name here and then maybe build it bigger somewhere else. But Tryston, tell us a little bit more about this NIL stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, if you guys have been watching March Madness at all, I guarantee you have seen the Boozer twins, Cam and Caden out there. They have like 10 commercials all the time. They're getting money for that. Before, you weren't allowed to do that as a college athlete. You were not allowed to make revenue off of your name, image, and likeness. So now these players are given the opportunity to make a share of what they bring to the program, and it's changing everything. You got multi-year brand deals coming out with everything. So it has just completely reshaped the landscape of college basketball, and it's something that is going to have to change. It's not something that's sustainable for, let's say, a decade. Something's got to have to change, or else these mid-majors are going to be falling behind a lot more than they already are. But let's get on to some positive news, guys. Molly is going to catch you up with a different side of the court with the women's tennis team. Molly, what can you tell us about that?
All right, so SEMO women's tennis is currently at 8-1 overall and 2-2 OVC. The tennis OVC season started off with a loss against Southern Illinois University Edwardsville, or SIUE, on March 22nd, where the Red Hawks lost 1-6. But even though they had a rocky start, SEMO tennis redeemed themselves quickly. The Red Hawks followed up with a win at home against University of Southern Indiana on March 28th. The Red Hawks totally flipped the script this time and beat them 6-1. The following week, SEMO tennis kept the victory going on March 31st when Maha Bahorik was named OVC Singles Player of the Week after beating Antonia Ferrarini from the University of Southern Indiana in a singles match and also securing the point for SEMO. Then on April 2nd, the Red Hawks lost in a non-conference match against the University of Missouri. They fell 4-1, but it was outside of their conference, so they're still in the running for OVC. Now, SEMO tennis did lose their next OVC match by 1 point, falling 3-4 against Western Illinois on April 3rd. But despite these two losses, the Red Hawks did not lose momentum, and they came back with a win in their next OVC match against Lindenwood on April 6th, scoring 5-2. Coming up next, SEMO tennis will travel to Nashville, Tennessee on Saturday, April 11th, which will be after we film this but before this episode comes out, to play against Tennessee State and wrap up their regular season, so stay tuned.
Excellent story, Molly. Thank you so much. And like you were saying, it's hard not to have fun right now if you are the SEMO women's tennis team. Let's move on to another exciting thing. SEMO softball turning heads right now. Coach Redburn having an excellent job here at SEMO. Kyler, what do you got for us, man?
Yeah, we just got a little short recap of the SEMO softball season. And Molly's last mention, she mentioned Tennessee State, who SEMO tennis is about to match up with. Well, SEMO softball just matched up with the Tennessee State Tigers, and they swept them 3-0. SEMO swept Tennessee State 3-0. They won 2 games on Saturday, 1 on Sunday, and the highest scoring game that they had to win, they beat Tennessee State 14-4. That's right. So SEMO getting a lot of runs early in the season so far. They're having a good year, as you alluded to, Tryston. They're being led by their head coach, Mark Redburn. But it's the girls on the field who are actually making it happen. They're being led by Madison Winkler, who has started every single game this season in center field. She's the only player on the SEMO softball roster to start every single game at the same position. She's their starting center fielder. She's their starting leadoff hitter. Madison Winkler is really good at softball, you could say. They're also being led by their infielder, Camden Hutton, and their first baseman, Aubrey Shore, their first base woman, I should say. I apologize, you guys. Aubrey Shore, a 2-time OVC Player of the Year, and now she's back in the Red Hawks uniform this year. But I'm talking about the players on the field. Tryston, tell us about who's coaching this team.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt players go and they make it happen. They're the fuel in the engine, you could say. But it all starts at the top, guys. Mark Redburn, 300 wins now as SEMO's head coach. Excellent milestone for him. He's got 500 career wins overall. And SEMO, that's something they have no shortage of, guys, is fantastic coaches across the board in all of their athletic departments. And you could see, for some examples, Dusty May in year 2 at Michigan winning the national championship. Kirk Cignetti at Indiana in year 2 winning the national championship in football, guys. So very obvious it all starts at the top. And Redburn has several throughout the years, OVC regular season championships and OVC tournament championships. So He's looking to do some more of that this year. He's had an excellent year so far.
And for you viewers who don't know, Tryston is actually a Michigan fan. Nice job slipping in your Michigan mention
Go
with
Blue.
Dusty May. I did that on purpose. Nice job, Tryston. Look, the SEMO softball team, when we're recording this, they have an upcoming matchup against Eastern Illinois. So it's this upcoming weekend. But when you're watching this, the tournament already occurred. So just look at the score, or look at the board right now to see that final score. SEMO softball having a good start to the season. They're looking to continue that the rest of this year. Back to you, Tryston.
Well, guys, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to follow us at Southeast Arrow and press the subscribe button down below. That's all the time we have for today. I'm Tryston.
I'm Kyler.
And I'm Molly.
Have a great day, guys.